This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. I'm Herb White, editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Post, and usually Cameron Williams is here in the second seat, but he's not here today, obviously, from the looks of things, if you're watching our podcast. And today, we're talking to a familiar face in a familiar place, but in a different time. Johnson C. Smith women's basketball coach, Vanessa Taylor. Vanessa, welcome back to campus. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Doing well, full of excitement and energy right now. It's a full circle moment for me, so I'm just really excited to be back at JCSU, and I certainly consider this home.
You've been moving since last week when you were announced as head coach of the Golden Bulls women's team for the second time. You had a really good run the first time out. Just looking over your record, 215 wins, 112 losses, winning as women's coach in program history. You have a CIAA championship on your resume from the 2009 season. And this is, like you said, a homecoming of sorts, where you spent 11, 12 seasons with the program, but a lot has changed.
Yes.
You left Smith to take on the head coaching job at North Carolina Central. You've been part of the D1 scene ever since. Central, Queens, Coastal Carolina, and Lander.
Yes.
A lot has changed. What have you noticed?
Well, first and foremost, I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Dr. Hendricks and Dr. Kenlock have extended me to actually come back home. And so the energy, I feel the energy in the air. I've had an opportunity to speak with several coaches of the staff, on the staff now. Our head football coach, who was actually here during a stint in a different role when I was here before, was one of the familiar faces, and another familiar face that I actually have seen was Trevin Parks, who was actually a player on one of the teams when I was here before. And so within the athletic department, it would be Dr. Hendricks, and of course, she's now in the lead position, which I'm really extremely happy about what she's doing with the program very early on. And so just excited to be back. Those are just a few of the familiar faces though that I've seen.
When you are in a place where there is some familiarity, I would imagine that's an advantage that not a lot of coaches get, because they have to get acclimated to a brand new place. They have to learn the city or the town, depending on its size. They have to learn the campus. They have to learn the people on the campus. But not so much from your perspective. How much of an advantage is that for you, and how do you get that leg up to full use in terms of that advantage, because you don't have to do so much getting acclimated?
I truly think the biggest thing is that the university has done a great job in putting great people in major places in the university, and so that's an advantage within itself when you have great leadership. It speaks to the kind of experience that you're going to have when you become a leader within that particular program. You're going to be working with creative thinkers. You're going to be working with people that have a love for the university. You're going to be working with people that have invested time here. And so those are all very exciting when you come back to a place or, where I've been away for a while and now I'm actually back. But there's also a lot of newness to coming back because the game has changed, tremendously. Women's basketball is in the forefront of a lot of things right now. When I was here before, yes, we had a team here, the Steam in Charlotte, and so we did have a WNBA team here. We don't have a team now, but they have truly led the way in the WNBA for women's basketball, moving to the forefront along with collegiate basketball, and we're part of that. And so with that, we have the opportunity in a major city to brand ourselves or rebrand ourselves as one of the top programs within the CIAA, within the region, and hopefully on a national stage eventually.
you have touched on a key point here, where you're talking about women's college basketball is now in a better place than it was when you left. But also college basketball or college sports has changed so much. NIL, transfer portal. I talk to a lot of coaches and they all agree it's a headache. So for you, since you've been an assistant coach for a few years, you're not necessarily responsible for the whole thing. Coming back to a changed landscape, what do you see as the challenges in terms of putting together a roster, keeping as many people happy as possible if you can, and still finding a way to win?
I think that the experiences that I've actually had and the young women that I've had the opportunity to work for have prepared me for this particular time, and still being in the game, but being able to be in another seat has allowed me to gain new perspective. And so that actually helps you when you move and navigate the landscape of women's basketball as it is now. And I see it as an opportunity, not a headache. I love being a part of this game where I have the ability to help encourage, inspire young women at this age in terms of navigating their collegiate opportunities that they have in front of them now. And isn't it great that they have the ability now to actually gain a financial gain when it comes to the skill that they actually had, because that's some of what we're preparing them for as they leave us. Now it's just on the front end as opposed to the back end when we say, hey, we want you to be ready to do X, Y, Z when you leave. Some of them now have the ability to do those things in progress while they're actually pursuing their degree, while they're actually participating on the NCAA collegiate team. And so I think it's a great time. I do not see it as a headache. I see it as a great opportunity. And so when you're talking about putting together a roster, some of the things still remain the same. First, you want young women with high major character, and then you certainly want them with a strong skill set. You want competitive young women within your team, and then you want goal-oriented women. And then, you're gonna have some of those young people to come in that, well, first of all, everybody thinks they're a star coming from whether it be high school or junior college, because you're recruiting the best from those places to come in to be a part of your program. And so with that, it is more so helping them understand playing for something bigger than themselves and understanding what it has to look like in order for all of us to be elevated, and that we elevate Johnson C. Smith's women's basketball team, and that stays in the forefront.
You have all this wealth of experience because before you were head coach at Smith, you were also head coach at Elizabeth City State. And 331 wins over 23 seasons, that's a lot of experience. But this program, well, both basketball programs at Smith have been in transition. The women's program more so over the last 2-3 seasons, been a lot of turmoil, a lot of turnover, that kind of thing. There's a lot of preparing to do. I don't think there's any secret to that. What do you need to be able to do to start to put the program back on a path that could match or even exceed what was here when you were the head coach the first time around?
I think that process has already begun. In terms of our leader, Dr. Hendricks, she's done a great job of putting the resources, necessary resources in place. So that's the beginning, and then allowing me to have or build an infrastructure, which would be my staff, alongside me. And so you mentioned something, I want to go back and make sure that I acknowledge the reason why I was able to, with that 330 something wins, it was not a solo thing. I had superb assistant coaches, people on my staff, and not just my staff, but the support people that were here. During that tenure, first Dr. Yancey, and then her bringing me in, we had Dr. Catherine Wright, who was actually our athletic director during that time, and then moving to the next president that we actually had, who actually embraced me as well. They were some of our biggest cheerleaders. And so with that, the support came. Coach Joyner was a excellent person to work beside when I was here the first time. And so the programs at that particular time, as you know, he went back to back one year, and then we actually, both of us actually won the CIAA one particular year. So Smith has a history of winning, and although we may have stumbled maybe in a year or two, because of our history, because of the tradition, because of a strong administration that wants to see this program back in a certain place when it comes to our conference in women's basketball. The stage has already been set in that particular way, and so as I come in, I just want to be able to add to that, bringing the knowledge that I've gained, having still such a love for this game because of all that it has given me, and I still want to give back. And then when you get that mixture together and you're able to have a staff or an infrastructure along with the supporting cast, so our strength trainer, our athletic trainer, those people who will still touch those young women that are in our particular circle, along with the academic piece, the academic coaches that we have here. So the program has already been elevated. You know, I am just fortunate enough now to come back in and be able to bring in some young women that fit what we want to do here. And so we already have some of those that are actually here. We have about 6 young women that will actually be coming back that decided through the transition that Johnson C. Smith University is where they wanted to be. And I'm so thankful that they're going to allow me to be their head coach and give me that buy-in necessary for us to move and elevate the program.
So you get 6.
Yes.
Obviously, there's more roster building to do.
Yes.
You mentioned winning basketball is a Smith thing, from the men's side to the women's side, which doesn't necessarily get the shine that it deserves considering what it's been in the past. How do you leverage that legacy of success for women's basketball, and how do you sell it in a place like Charlotte? There's obviously the city itself, but then I guess there's also the university. How do you manage to say, or do you roll up to an individual that you're recruiting and say, hey, you know, this is happening and you should be part of the rebuilding of the program?
So as we move the program forward, first of all, who doesn't want to come to the Queen City and play? That's the first thing. Phenomenal city, always something to do, something going on. Our city has great energy. And then with us being a part of Uptown, we're very close, 5 minutes maybe from Uptown?
Yeah, and that's if you're driving. Who knows what it is if you're walking.
Right, maybe a few more steps. But so where we are, that particular part of the landscape has not changed at all, Herb. So you look at the excitement around the city and around Johnson C. Smith, and then we have the infusion of Dr. Kinlock, our president now, who actually is a graduate from Smith. And so she brings that knowledge, she brings that love, the creativity, and she is one of those innovative persons that actually has this university moving in the right direction in, you know, right now in this particular time. And so with that surge of energy, it's just a matter of identifying those young women, like I said, that are serious about their academics, that bring the kind of skill set that will allow us to, because the CIAA is extremely competitive. And so, you know, every game, there's a lot of parity within the team. So every game will be a dogfight. But even when we play those non-conference games, we want to play regional teams that will allow us to get ready for the conference. But that sale, I think, comes from the great things that are happening at the university now, within the city. And certainly that energy will follow us in terms of the program. And so when you have great leaders in place, like I said, I cannot say that enough, like a Dr. Hendricks, like a Dr. Kinlock, you know, with our city, it is a recipe for success. And so they have tagged me with the job now of going out and with the young women that are still committed to our program, several of them academically did very, very well this semester. I'm really excited for them with that. We want to continue that. And so, although we will bring in pieces to build and to assist them in this journey along the way. So I think that, with the hard work we're going to put in, with the fun we're going to have, because everything shouldn't be a stoic kind of environment, with the learning and them just remaining coachable, and first and foremost putting Smith first. I think we're going to have some exciting games again.
But you got to have a coach who can pull all these different parts together. Experience matters. How do you leverage that when you are out recruiting, and you as opposed to somebody who's maybe just becoming a head coach for the first time? You've been here a while, you've seen it on all sides of the bench, you played college basketball. How much does that experience matter when you approach a recruit and you're selling your program?
I think some of the things that it does is it helps you to identify what you need, maybe a little bit faster. Young coaches are very talented, and I just think, more than anything, that the timing was good. It's been I've had great support in terms of being at Smith, and I look forward to having that as well this time around, from the alumni, from the young women that have been a part of the program. And so to bring them back into the fold so that they possibly are mentoring the young women that you have now, because now a lot of them are their mothers, they are career women as well. They're doing extremely well, and so you want that energy to be around the young women that are coming to the program now, so that they understand the tradition that they become a part of. And I think when you mix and put all of that together, certainly that is an environment where great things can happen.
That's an interesting take when you talk about bringing alumni back as mentors and just, I guess, den mothers maybe to your current players, because that takes involvement from everybody, the past and present, and mixing them in, and it becomes an even larger community of Golden Bulls.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk strategy.
Okay.
In terms of what you want to put on the floor. And I know basketball has evolved a lot, and the pounded inside strategy has given way to 1 in, 4 out, and positionless basketball and all the other stuff. What is it that you want to be able to put on the floor when the season tips off?
Offensively, certainly we want to play up tempo. We'll show some read and react actions in terms of playing offensively, but we definitely want to open the floor. We're always looking for paint touches when it comes to the offensive side of the ball, whether that be from a drive or an interior pass. And so there'll be some actions that we'll actually run that some of the young women might be familiar with now, whether it's pistol or zoom or Spain actions that allow us to get great looks from the talents of the young women that we have. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we want to be a solid defensive team. We want to apply pressure, not always full court, but just strategically applying pressure to keep the emphasis or keep our opponents or forcing them to actually do things that maybe they're uncomfortable doing, so that we can turn them over some. So defensively, we want to pressure the ball. We want to be high energy. Certainly, we want to be flying around some, but key thing defensively is that you rebound. So we want to be a solid rebounding team, because if you can rebound, you can control the ball, you can control what actually happens, the possessions of the game, and you can be in the game if you can control that rebounding.
So you're looking for some size.
Or we are looking, you know what? I am looking for skilled players that will come in and that are talented enough to do, because now, when you say size, you can look for young women that are 6'2", but they're not necessarily playing on the inside. So, size is great, but we want young women that are talented and that are very skilled in what they do. And so that will be in the forefront of our mind. But let me state that size is always good now. But, if we can get, a 6 foot guard, if we can get, wings that are strong, and we actually have one of the young women that actually decided that she would return to Smith in Kashana Brown. She's about 5'11", plays on the perimeter. She's very gifted, and so if I get into naming, then I have to name all of my young ladies because
why not?
because they will all bring something. But she's just one of the players that I had the ability to actually recruit before being here. Initially, she was at Jacksonville State, but she's out of Augusta, Georgia. Georgia has such an abundance of athletes. I'm actually from Georgia, and so hopefully we can go back and that'll be a hotbed or continue to be a hotbed for us, as well as North Carolina, South Carolina. And so as we recruit regionally, we certainly want to hit all of those pockets, but we won't be limited to that. We're gonna go up north and get us some north flavor, and we don't mind going west, wherever they play, whether it is to Texas or California or to Utah, wherever they play. We want Johnson C. Smith to be there so that we can get the best talent with the brightest minds in the game right now, and have them to come in and be a part of this program.
The CIAA, when you were here previously, women's basketball was always a dogfight, and there were 2 or 3 squads that you knew were going to be there at the end when tournament time rolled around, and those were the threats to win. Smith was one of them. Shaw was one of them. Mm-hmm. Things have changed a little bit. Shaw and Smith have kind of fallen to the back, depending on who you are. How far back? We don't know. But Fayetteville State has a really good program. Lincoln women have been really good. How much have you kept up with the CIAA, and who are the teams that you have to get out, push aside to get back to where you want to be?
I think one of the things that when I talked earlier, I talked about the parity in the conference. Now, there are no easy games. From whether it be a Bowie State or it be a Fayetteville State, who has done an extremely good job in this conference, as well as a Virginia State. They've had a transition in their coach, but the young lady that they actually brought in, that their director Tiffany brought in, has been phenomenal, even with the coaching she's done before actually arriving on the CIAA scene. She used to be the head coach at Augusta State, and so they were in the Peach Belt. Peach Belt is high-level Division II basketball. It's one of the conferences where you could actually say, hey, along with the CIAA, this is one of the top Division II conferences that there is. And so coaches are being brought into our programs within our conference, or that are already here, have now decided that we are also going to be an extreme threat when it comes to winning. And so with the parity, when you talk about Fayetteville State, you can't forget schools like a Virginia Union, where the coach just moved to Winston-Salem. And so Rudd definitely will do a great job at Winston-Salem State there now. So there are no easy teams in the CIAA. So I could go and I could name them all, because they all are going to be great and very hard games, where you have Coach Janice that's up at Lincoln, who actually within the last couple of years also won a championship. So it's going to be a dogfight every night, regardless of who you're playing. Teams like Coach Terrence down at Claflin, they are always extremely competitive. His kids are going to play extremely hard. He does a great job of bringing in the kind of talent that you need in this conference. And so, it's just a matter of, you have to be ready every night when you play in a conference with the kind of parity that we'll see within our conference.
I've never asked you this question before.
Okay.
But who in basketball do you admire most? Whether it was somebody who mentored you, or somebody that you watched growing up, or who was it? It's this is the person who has influenced my basketball journey most.
Wow. I would have to say my mother was that influence for me. My mother coached basketball and track for over 30 something years at the high school level. And so I saw it every day in my home and her ability to open her heart and have room for each and every one of those players during that particular time. I also saw my sister coach. Her name is Vanessa Taylor. And so just the energy, the passion she coached with, her ability to get the most out of the young women that she actually was coaching, was just phenomenal. And I could go on and on, but coaches outside of my home that I had a chance to watch when I was young, certainly Vivian Stringer was one of those persons that we all looked to and saw what she was doing with the players at different schools and kind of followed along with what she was doing in that particular time. And so I would say for me though, it started in my home every day with my mother being a high school coach.
And mom's name?
Maddie Taylor Wilson. I'm sorry, now Maddie Wilson Taylor. She's no longer with us. She actually, my mother passed my first year at Johnson C. Smith. Yeah. But I've had a lot of women in my life that have mentored me to help me become who I am now as a coach. And one of those persons was Dr. Kelsey Yancey, who took a chance on me out of Elizabeth City State to bring me to Johnson C. Smith University, where my journey began here. And it doesn't stop there, but yeah, there have been a lot of women. I could say I've been very fortunate in that sense of who's been able to touch my life, who's been a part, who I've been able to watch, who has laid down those prayers for me, who people that went before us that paved the way so that we actually have this opportunity now. And so now we bear that responsibility to make sure we make the game better every day that we coach, every individual that we have the opportunity to coach.
Well said, well put. And we'll see exactly who you get to mentor and have an impact on so that you pay it forward starting in October, November. And Coach Vanessa Taylor, thank you for joining me for the podcast and for all of you out there. Be sure to go to our website, thecharlottepost.com, and become a donor or a subscriber or subscribe to our sports newsletter. It comes out every Thursday, and we're covering as much as we can with what we have. So, can't be everywhere all the time, but we are here and we appreciate your support. So for Coach Taylor, for the game back at the office in beautiful downtown Derrida, I'm Herb White. Thanks for watching and listening.